Election Day is November 5th, and we're sitting down with Norwalk's candidates for Common Council and Board of Education, and we're asking them for their qualifications, their opinions, and their visions for Norwalk.
I have a unique background. I've grown up here. I've lived here my entire life. I've actually lived in district my entire life, but I've had a perspective through my father's eyes. He's been a teacher for 32 years, my entire life. He's been teaching at Norwalk High. That's what kind of prompted me, or my original stance, to kind of get involved and kind of looking a little bit beyond what I was originally as a regular citizen. I started looking into allocation of resources and why there's certain things that have happened that we've seen happen that aren't happening. Then there's some of these just sort of basic traditional practices that I've always kind of been curious around in terms of revenue streams in the city and where the taxes come from. So I've done, over the past few months going into this, I've had a more deep dive approach towards some of the city's revenue streams and what approaches we've taken. And then beyond that, I've looked at some other cities, not just local cities, but across the country. And I found that there's a lot of opportunity in Norwalk. Not that they haven't tried things, right? And I definitely want to give them credit for what they have tried. I just think that there's an out of the box approach, and there's that business mentality that should be put into a city. To directly answer your question, I do have that business mentality. I've been a district manager now for the past 9 years, working very diverse geographies with very diverse people. And I have that business mindset of the bottom line, NOP, understanding what the drive and motivation. And if it's not there, what can I do differently to try to bring that into play? I spoke of my geography, that difference. I also feel like the council, there has been in the past a reputation of clashing, and so forth. And I like to be a team player, right? I understand there are party lines, but there's an end goal that we all need to achieve, and I want to work towards that end goal above and beyond any of the other banter. I do want to have that direct involvement with the Board of Education, right? So that's one of those things, because I do have a direct passion around that. I grew up with, a teacher as a father, right? And I feel like, again, although we don't have that direct say with the Board of Education as a council member, I feel that final allocation, when we make that vote, I feel like we should have as much knowledge as possible about what's going on so we can best benefit the students as well as the faculty, as opposed to just looking at a spreadsheet and saying, yeah, that looks right. I want to be more involved, we'll say, right? So that's one. Two, the dissemination and gathering of information. I feel like the public is left blind quite often, right? And I want to try to take on a different methodology around doing such things, and I can make that a personal goal. And then beyond that, the outside of the box thinking, and I kind of spoke to it pretty regularly about adding revenue streams to the city. There's been quite a few methodologies that have been used in other cities around the country that have worked and have been very functional as a direct revenue line. In addition, so I spoke to the billboards, right, in previous press conferences or forums. There's the ideology that we are on I-95, right, and between New York and New Haven, we have 100,000 to 150,000 vehicles traveling daily, right? The current commercial structure has billboards there available and we have city property that's right on I-95 that they charge between $900 to $2,500 a month, right? And they market to whatever they choose to market to. If they sell the space, they sell the space. I kind of proposed to the fact that we take our city lines and put up our own forms of billboards and make that a revenue stream. We could charge to that, but we also have control, right? So a lot of people there might be that thought process that there's an opposition to having more billboards. But along I-95, they're already there, and we should have a little bit of a say on what gets put up there. So for instance, if we are offering that as an availability, we could market towards or kind of influence the type of business and commerce that we would like within the city, which would be an added benefit. In addition, if we're not using it as a direct revenue stream in terms of rental space, we could also market our city. So if we have a transitioning billboard, for instance, which we see they're very popular, we could put our own attractions. The Maritime Center, for instance, right? Maybe Stu Leonard's, we're popular for that as well, right? And increase the local commerce, and again, overall business within our city limits. In addition, there's been a taxation imposed. Areas of Boston uses this, Baltimore. It's basically if there is marketing space within city lines, and now I'm walking away from I-95, any marketing space, the billboards have been charged $5 a square foot for stationary space and $15 a square foot for the transitioning space. Now that's something that doesn't directly affect the citizens, right? We'll have an added revenue stream, and again, take some of that tax burden away from the populace. So I mean, and there's other things that I've been kind of researching into that have worked specifically to kind of bring away taxation, such as the property tax and so forth, which we have had a spike in. And although I can't make any promises that'll lower those property taxes, I can vow that I will look into additional methods that haven't been looked at. I feel like there's a lot of things that have just been left on the table.
Give me an idea of the sort of issues and concerns regarding District D that you might want to bring to the table.
Yeah, probably the most popular one right now is kind of the BJ's thing, and specifically around that, there's the views of the local citizens, and I've been involved in a lot of those kind of those gatherings and communications and everything around BJ's, and the Hour did a polling on it, and it was pretty much overwhelming that the citizens in that area didn't want it. And we looked into, I have all the data around what would happen with the streets, and the infrastructure itself couldn't hold that type of volume. Although there's definitely some kind of need for additional commerce. There is space there, so I think that would be another perspective in terms of gathering information. So the people have already voted, they said, and they use the resources that are available. I think it's phenomenal that we've put in a poll in the Hour, and people reached out. We've kind of disseminated that through Facebook as well. That was like kind of the first step, but now we want to gather the information of what the people would like to see there, and what makes sense based on that actual physical location, the traffic, the infrastructure that's currently in place, and how it would represent the citizens in that area. But again, it comes back down to trying to gather that specific data. Yes, we know that people don't necessarily want BJ's there, or at least the people in that immediate community, but what would they like there, And then once we have that information, then we can make that decision. It's a team effort, right? So I think the mayor as well as the council should convey the moods and the talents and the background of each other as the individuals, depending on whatever the topic might be. Obviously, there's a huge gambit of topics that cross the council as well as the mayor's desk. And there's no one person that could be considered an expert on everything, right? And the reality is there are certain people, certain individuals that might have a stronger background, might have a more of an influence in an area, or more just educational knowledge, on a specific topic. And I think that for myself, I'm able to be humble if somebody does have more knowledge, all right? But beyond that, I also do have that leadership background where I would step up and say, no, listen, this is the gentleman or this is the lady that has the background, and we should try to listen to them, regardless of party lines. All right, if we're trying to achieve a goal and a common good for other citizens, then that is what we should do, right?